Hello BookTube, what's up? My name is Juan, I am just one reader, and this is another recent reads wrap-up. Today I will be talking about books numbers 44 through 46 that I have read so far this year, 2017. So let's get started with book number 44, Tin Men by Sarah Winman. I have already made a separate review for this one, so I will spare you the details. But just to give you a general idea, this book is one of the books that I was expecting the most. I was anticipating it like very few others, and I went into this book with a lot of expectations because a lot of my booktube friends, people on Goodreads, people everywhere in the reading world had been loving this and singing its praises. And It also seemed to have a lot of elements that I usually would love in a book. It had a relationship between two men. It had, a very English British setting, which I also really love reading about. So on paper, it should have really appealed to me, but it didn't. I really, really didn't like it, not because it was badly done necessarily. I thought it was just a matter of connection. I just didn't really feel the connection with anything with this book. And I realized this very early on. I mean, probably since the first couple of pages. There's a prologue, and right after having read that prologue, I said to myself, that's weird. I mean, what should I be feeling right now? Or what was this really about? What was this for? So, yeah, and that same feeling, that same questioning process happened throughout the entire book, and I just didn't really enjoy it. I sort of understand why a lot of people really like it, because there's a lot to enjoy in this book if you are the proper audience, but I don't think I was the right audience, so I'm not going to waste your time anymore talking about this book because, I mean, I'm not going to say anything positive, so I gave it 2 stars. I would probably have to give it 1 star, but I reserve my 1 star ratings for books that I passionately hated for some reason, and I didn't hate this. I just didn't like it. It was kind of watching a movie and exiting the theater thinking, well, what's for lunch? So yeah, that's what my immediate thought after reading this novel, after finishing this book, was, well, what's next? So the next book that I read was, I just wanted something fun, something that could pull me out of this kind of weird limbo state. So I continued with The Slippery Slope. This is book number 10 in a series of unfortunate events, which I have been rereading this year. And I think this is one of my favorite ones in the series so far. I really enjoyed it. It was significantly longer than the previous books in the series. The first book in the series, the first couple of books are like 200 pages, and this was like 330, something like that. So it was longer, but I also thought it was particularly exciting in a different way, and it was also particularly funny. And Lemony Snicket always use, well, Daniel Handler is the real person, the real author behind this books, but yeah, the author uses, in every book, he uses a lot of different like different mechanisms or different ways of catching your attention or doing something gimmicky. He has a lot of gimmicks and tricks that he does. In this book, he has a lot of lists. He uses a lot of he makes lists with items, 1 item for every letter of the alphabet, and it's just ridiculous. It felt ridiculous and really clever and really funny, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm really excited to continue on with this series. I also really enjoyed this book in particular, and this is why I think it's one of my favorite ones so far, is because there's a lot of revelations in this book. The characters find a lot of things about the secret organization that is really the core, or at the core of this mystery of this series. So if you know this series, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't know this series, then I recommend you picking it up. If you're looking for something very fun, light, funny, and kind of dreadfully fun, I really recommend this series. So that's a series of unfortunate events, book 10. And the last book that I want to mention today is The Beautiful Bureaucrat by Helen Phillips. This is a magical realism novel. It's very short. I have been reading a lot of magical realism short novels lately because I am sort of getting in the mindset of magical realism, because I have to write a paper, a dissertation paper, and I am doing it on psychoanalysis and magical realism and adolescence and how those things are connected. So I've been reading a lot of this type of stuff lately. You can go and check my previous wrap-ups. I have read The Tiny Wife by Andrew Kaufman. I have read, well, a couple. And this one was quite good, actually. I'm still kind of conflicted. I don't know exactly just how much I love it or like it. I definitely admire it. This is a story, it's kind of very difficult to explain, as it often is with magical realism. It is a story about these two characters, a man and a woman, husband and wife, who come to the city. We don't even know where this is, but I sort of understood it to be like your stereotypical image of New York City, very, with the hustle of the city and this kind of workaholic, adrenaline-filled tension. And they come into the city to sort of, start their lives and make something out of their lives. And we focus on the woman's story. She is the protagonist, and we see the story through her. She finds a job, an office job, like your regular 9-to-5 job, and she is incredibly depressed because this job is very lonely and very weird. She has no understanding whatsoever of what she's doing. It's a very mechanical job. She just works like a little ant, and she just has to put in all the numbers and the data that they give her, and she just works with files, and she puts the numbers into the computer, and she spends hour after hour after hour of every day doing this mind-numbingly pointless job, at least pointless to her. And the story evolves as we see her becoming more and more depressed and unraveling, and she sort of has this kind of breakdown, I think, and it's a really depressing, paranoid, tense novel, and I love that feeling. I love feeling those things in magical realism, and I think Helen Phillips did a really good job. There are more aspects to the story that I will not reveal, because there is quite a twist or revelation at the end of this book when you finally understand what her job is all about. But I will not spoil that, so you would have to read it in order to find out. This is very short, and it's it's not even 200 pages long. It's 177 pages long. So you can read it very quickly. Her prose is really fast-paced. It's not particularly beautiful for example, it's not beautiful like My Cousin Rachel, Daphne du Maurier type of beautiful, but it is beautiful in a different way. It's beautiful in the way that it plays with the language, the way that it plays with imagery, the way that she slowly starts to incorporate the wacky magical realism. This is not a very in your face magical realism type of magical realism, but it gradually, slowly introduces the magical realism elements, and I like that because it feels like you are getting into the mind of a person who is emotionally, mentally, psychically unraveling and having a breakdown, and that's the experience that you get, or at least that I got. So if you enjoy those kinds of things, I would recommend this. It's actually very good. And This book also kind of reminded me a little bit of one of my favorite books ever, which is Swamplandia by Karen Russell. That one is just an amazing example of the type of magical realism that I love. And yeah, there's some similarity. I'm still not very aware of what it is, but there is a similarity between this and Swamplandia by Karen Russell. I think Swamplandia is remarkable and absolutely one of the best things that I've read so far in life. So it was miles better than this for me, but I still feel like there's some things that Helen Phillips does in here that Karen Russell also does, the way that she plays with language and the way that you get this kind of ethereal, atmospheric tension. Basically, in Swamplandia, if you don't know, this is not a spoiler, but in Swamplandia, there is this kind of lush richness in the language and the prose. It feels like poetry, and it really connects with the way that she depicts the setting, that the weird setting, and everything is connected to give you a very ethereal, kind of magical, dreamlike, rich feeling. It's kind of a very weird state of mind. And in The Beautiful Bureaucrat, something like that, something similar to that happens. There's this feeling in the ambiance, in the settings. It's kind of really dreary and depressing and melancholy, and weird, and it feels like a dream, or rather like a nightmare. This book is really tense, and it is kind of horrific. It's kind of, yeah, if you really think about what this book is, it's really scary. It's about, it really is a commentary about, our current 9-to-5 job, the conceptions that we have about work and jobs, and how some people, I'm not saying everybody, but some people have this kind of very dispassionate feelings for what they do, and they don't really understand what they do, and they don't really care about it. They just, there's a great line in this book that I loved, which is, she didn't have to understand her job, she just had to keep it. And I think that is a remarkable line. It definitely rings true for our society, I think. Personally, I had trouble connecting to that aspect because I have only worked in things that I absolutely love. So I've worked as a teacher, which is a very different type of job, and I loved it. And now I work as a psychotherapist, which I also adore. There's not a minute of my life, of my working life, that I don't enjoy. So I had trouble connecting to that. But still, I can empathize and I can relate to what this book is trying to say, or what Helen Phillips is trying to comment on. So yeah, I gave this, I think, I'm still not sure if I should give it 3 stars or 4 stars. Maybe I should give it something in between, something like a 3.5. With magical realism novels like this one, it's often quite hard to rate them. I find that it's almost always better to wait and wait to see how it sinks in and how it simmers, and I will probably rate it later. So yeah, The Beautiful Bureaucrat, I recommend it. Have you read any of these books? Are you inclined to pick them up? Let me know in the comments down below. I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.